This is the screen you first see when you enter the world of Shadow Era. On this screen you pick the hero you want to start the game with. Don't worry too much about which hero you pick because you'll be able to get more heroes later on and change your deck around. So there are two basic factions, the human faction and the shadow faction. And there are classes that your hero can be. Boris Skullcrusher is a warrior, and there are some classes that are available to both factions and some that are exclusive to one faction or the other. Boris Skullcrusher is part of the human faction, and he is a warrior class. Each hero also has an ability. This hero has an ability that costs 4 shadow energy to use, and at the bottom right you see he has 30 health. For example, Amber Rain has an ability that is ongoing and is in effect at all times, so you don't have to pay any energy to use it. And since these two are warriors, they have more health than, for example, Victor Heartstriker, who is a hunter. So let's pick Boris Skullcrusher and start a game with him. This is a world map, and you only have one opponent since you just started the game, but there'll be more later. Before we start playing, let's take a basic look at the anatomy of each card. For example, here I have an ally, which is like a creature or a minion that you play and that fights for you. So this one called Blake Windrunner costs 2 resources to play, and he has an attack power of 3, as you can see on the bottom left, and on the bottom right he has a health of 2. Plasma Behemoth is a little bit more complicated. He's also an ally. He's part of the Shadow faction, whereas Blake was a human. So this one has 3 attack, 5 health, but he also has an ability. It costs 3 resources to play each ability, and to play this ability, and this one does 4 damage to a target, which is pretty powerful. Here we have Alden the Brave, who's also an ally, human faction, 2 attack, 4 health, and however, he's a unique, which means that you can only have one of him in play at a time per player. So the way it works is when one ally attacks another ally, you basically, the one that's attacking does his damage first, and then you retain damage on each ally by just decreasing the health on each one. So for example, if Blake Windrunner with his 3 attack attacked Alden the Brave, he would drop Alden down from 4 health to 1 health, but then Alden the Brave would have a chance, since he's still alive, to attack back, and he would hit for 2 damage, bringing Blake from 2 to 0, killing him. If the attack went in the reverse order and Alden the Brave was the one who attacked first, he would, first of all, his ability would activate because allies have +1 attack on your turn, so on your turn is a turn you can attack. So you attack with him, and he has 3 instead of 2, and he hits Blake for 3, killing him instantly without Blake having a chance to retaliate. Now let's look at a different kind of card. These are ability cards, and this one is spent as soon as you use it, costs 4 resources, and it does 3 damage to a target. But there are also ongoing abilities that stay in the game. For example, this one, Bizarre, is ongoing. It stays in the game, and it lets each player draw an extra card. With these ongoing abilities and with items, you can only have one of each one per player in the game. Here's an item, which is like an ongoing ability. This one grants an effect. It lets you summon your allies and they can attack immediately. Because normally when you play an ally, you can't use them until your next turn. But with this card, they'll be immediately able to be used on the turn that you play them. Lastly, there's weapon and armor. So weapons affect your hero, not your allies, and what they do is that they give the hero a means to attack or to fight back when he's attacked by other allies. So basically, the point of the game is to kill your opponent, and as you can see, you have 30 health, and your opponent also has 30 health. Now the board, basically, let's go back to the full view. You have your resources, which is every time you sacrifice a card, you get a resource. And the resources are spent each turn, but they reset, so you keep accumulating more and more resources as you sacrifice more and more cards. Then you have your graveyard, where used up cards or cards that die in battle go into the graveyard. You have your hero, your deck shows you have 24 cards, your opponent has 23 cards. And here you have this is where your allies go when you play them, and here are where any items and ongoing abilities go when you use them. So the person who goes first skips their draw phase, and so that offsets the advantage of being able to go first. Now the first thing you have to do, so the first phase is the draw phase, then you have the sacrifice step, and in this step you have the option of sacrificing one of your cards. So let's just sacrifice this one, and now it becomes a resource over here that you can use. So now let's let our opponent go. Now it's our turn again. See, at this turn, because it's not the first turn for the person who goes first, we were able to have a draw phase. In a draw phase, basically all the allies that are used up, that are exhausted, become ready to go, and you are able to draw a card, which we drew one of these cards, this one, and you also gain 1 point of shadow energy if your hero has an ability that costs shadow energy. And then when we get 4, for example, you'll be able to use this ability, and the more shadow energy, you can get more shadow energy than this amount, and you can save it up to use it when you need to. But you can only use this ability once per turn. Even if you had 8 shadow energy, you couldn't use that ability twice, for example. You could only use it once. So let's sacrifice another card. So now we have 2 resources, and that lets us play this card because, as you can see, it has a casting cost of 2 resources, and so let's play this ally. Now we have 0 out of 2 resources available. Now it's our opponent's turn. He plays the shadow ally, okay. Actually, since we have 2 of these, let's sacrifice one of them. Now, let's play this ability card, put target ally back into its owner's hand, because that'll slow them down a bit. So we cast this, we pick this ally and return Brutalis to our opponent's hand. And now we can choose who we want to attack. Since there are no allies to attack, let's just pick the hero and hit him for 2. Ending our turn. He ends up playing Keldor. Now let's play another Puin Bloodhelm, and this ability which prevents our allies from being attacked for the next 2 turns. And now let's attack with Puin and end our turn. So basically the game proceeds like this, each player taking turns, and during your draw phase, you draw and gain a point of shadow energy. And during your sacrifice phase, you're able to sacrifice a card. And it's optional, so if you don't want to sacrifice a card, you can always skip your sacrifice phase. And since we've gained 4 points of shadow energy, we can use his ability, which lets us destroy an ally that costs 4 or less. Let's use it to destroy this gargoyle who costs 3, which is less than 4. And let's see, let's play this ongoing ability, which gives our warrior plus 10 health. So once we've cast that card, even if we get another copy of it, we can't use it because you can only have one of each type of ongoing ability in play per player side. So the goal of the game basically is to get your opponent down to 0 health. And you can do this by attacking with allies, or by playing cards that do damage directly, or by attacking with your hero. Although our hero can't attack because he doesn't have a weapon. And basically, every time you play, you get more experience. Right now we have 0 out of 100 experience. And you also get gold, and every time you level up, you get shadow crystals. Now this rating has to do with multiplayer, and when you play some multiplayer. I'll show you that in an advanced tutorial. So basically, let's look a little bit at deck construction just briefly. So if you go to deck, you can see all the cards in your deck. Right now you don't have any extra cards, but since you saw that you had 500 gold here, you can't buy any of these packs because these packs cost shadow crystals, and this you have to either buy with money or gain some 25 shadow crystals every time you level up. So once you have 100, you can buy a booster pack or one of these starter packs. And you can also buy individual cards since you have 500. Now, since our hero is a human, we're going to want to buy human faction cards. And since he's a warrior, we can also use warrior-specific cards. So, for example, we can't use Bad Wolf because he's Shadow. So let's buy maybe one of these warrior training cards. And let's buy another Pewin, who's a human. Now that we've spent quite a bit of money, let's go back into the deck construction area. Here you can remove cards, like for example, say we don't want this one in our deck anymore, and add cards. So basically, your deck has to have at least 30 cards total, including your hero. You can have more than 30 cards if you want, but it's better if you have only 30 because that means you get to your better cards sooner. And here you basically build your deck from your stockpiled cards and your 30 card deck, and you can load any of these decks. Unfortunately, right now we only have one hero, so we can only load our Boris deck. So I hope this tutorial has been useful, and I hope it's introduced you to the basics of Shadow Era. Hope you enjoy playing.